G'day Trailblazers, my name is Cam, and for today's video, I'm going to follow on from our Introduction to SQL Learning series with a bonus video. This one's going to be how to further your learning in SQL in Salesforce Marketing Cloud using ChatGPT. So what you'll need for today's video is of course access to ChatGPT. Now I am using just the free version which you get when you log into the ChatGPT platform. I'm also using the Introduction to SQL data extension set that I've got here. The link to the DB diagram will be in the video description below. You'll also need access to the data extensions and sample data, all of which I've got saved on the GitHub resource for the Introduction to SQL. Again, I'll put a link to this in the description below. So for today, our goal is to build a SQL learning bot. The ability for us to continue our SQL learning by making ChatGPT give us questions to solve, which we can then practice with to improve our SQL coding abilities. I'm going to show you how to prompt ChatGPT using our sample data set from our Introduction to SQL, our Bookshop data, to then go and build some really cool sample use cases in SQL to practice our skills with. So to start with, we have to learn how to prompt ChatGPT. So let's start things off by saying, act as a SQL developer in Salesforce Marketing Cloud. Good first start. What we want to do is tell it what to do next. You will generate sample SQL questions based on a SQL database provided. All right, so that's some instructions, and now what? Well, you will produce SQL tasks for the user to complete. I'm going to try and tell it what it's going to do next based on a difficulty level. Difficulty level provided, let's say between 1 and 10, where 1 is very easy and 10 is very hard. Alright, that should give it some context now. So what do we want to do though? Produce some sample questions, but how do we want our questions formatted? Well, we should say you will produce text questions that describe the situation and the proposed table output. Very important, as we do want to make sure that the ChatGPT gives us not just a question, but also what we want the output to look like. So we want to produce text questions based on the situation and the proposed table output. The questions should only use the select syntax for the results. Alright, so you have to make sure you just use the select syntax, and it must be compliant, or it must work in a query activity in Salesforce Marketing Cloud. So we're also making sure that it knows that we're not just the average SQL developer, we have to make this work in a query activity in Salesforce Marketing Cloud. Now finally, you will only produce the SQL solution if requested. Very important. Okay, so now I've set up the framework for this ChatGPT question generator. It's going to act as an SQL developer. It's going to make some sample SQL questions based on an SQL database provided. So yet to provide that. You'll produce SQL tasks for the user to complete based on a difficulty level provided between 1 and 10, where 1 is easy and 10 is hard. You will produce text questions that describe the situation and the proposed table output, including data types. That's very important. The question should only use the select syntax for the results, and it must work in a query activity in Salesforce Marketing Cloud. Perfect. You will only produce the SQL solution if requested. All right. So how about we do question difficulty 2 to start with. And then we'll say the database markup language, database structure is as follows. And now here's the cool thing with ChatGPT. It knows the database markup language structure. So we can jump straight into our introduction to SQL table here. We can quite simply copy all of this left-hand side code, just like it is, back into ChatGPT, and we can just paste it, just like that. So let's see how it goes. Let's go run. And down, down, down. Here we go. Question. All right. So you work for a book retailer and need to retrieve a list of customers who have made purchases, along with their total purchase count. Additionally, you want to include their bookworm points if available. Please provide an SQL query to accomplish this. And the expected output is just the customer ID as text, total purchase count as a number, and the bookworm points as a number. All right. So let's give it a try. It's a nice, simple data extension with just 3 fields required. So let's go and build that data extension first. Take customer ID, and let's jump into Marketing Cloud. We'll go create data extension. We'll call this one our SQL ChatGPT Q1. And we'll go next. Of course, customer ID was our first value there. And it was a text, good. Total purchase count was a number. And so we'll go number. Now we know, of course, that there could be no purchases, so make sure that we allow it to be nullable. That's important. And finally, bookworm points. Copy and paste. And again, points very possibly could be null, so make sure it's null there. There's our 3 fields, and we'll go create. All right, SQL ChatGPT question 1. Automation Studio now. Let's make ourselves a new SQL activity. Let's try and solve it. We'll go create new. And SQL ChatGPT question 1. All right, so again, let's jump back into our data extension location and we'll drag and drop in our fields. There they are. Going to select our customer ID, our total, and our points. From where? Okay, so back onto our question. It's going to be to retrieve a list of customers who've made purchases. Okay, so very important condition there. Those who have made purchases, along with their point count. So, those who made purchases. Well, we want our customers, of course. There they are there. So we're going to be selecting from our SQL customers to start with. So from SQL customers on C, which means our C.customerID. Now our purchase count and bookworm points. So where do we find those? Well, back in our table, bookworm points, lucky for us, actually comes from the same table. So we're lucky there. We go bookworm points. And jump back into our SQL. Bookworm points is also C dot. Bookworm points, it's the same field name, perfect. But the purchase count is not, that's somewhere else. So how do we get to that? Well, purchase count, those who have made purchases. So we have to do an inner join on, well, invoices. There it is there. So we'll do invoices. And what's the join on? Well, we know it's joining one customer ID to many customer IDs. There's that star. So one to many on customer ID. So back into the SQL, we can say inner join invoices I on I.customerID is equal to C.customerID. All right, so we've got that one done, but we don't have purchase count just yet. So how do we get to purchase count? Well, the count of purchases should of course be their count of invoices. So we should be able to just count how many invoices there are. So if I go back into my query, I should be able to say count of all my data there as the total purchase count. But of course, if I am doing a count, I'm going to have to do a group by. So below here, I can say group by. Of course, I'll group by my customer ID and my bookworm points. So that'll look. Okay, looking good. So we should have our count of purchases and our bookworm points. Let's go next. And we'll save this now into our data extension and give it a first go. So where is our SQL ChatGPT? Overwrite and next. All right, I'm going to save that and run it. And while we run it, we're also going to inspect what the actual answer is according to ChatGPT. So run once. And run and run. Perfect. So while it's running, let's now jump in and have a look at what our answer is. So we can now say, what is the answer? Now it thinks we could have done Almost exactly the same thing. Now it chose to use a left join. Curious, because it did say for those customers who have made a purchase along with total purchase. So we chose to use inner join based on that criteria, but it says that it used a left join here. However, we did use our customers on invoices, exactly the same matching. I like how it used C and I, just like I did. And of course, grouping by those 3 fields as well, with a count as their solution there. Very nice. So let's have a look and see if it's finished. It's just running right now. And it's finished. Perfect. So we'll jump in now and refresh it. Now, we did have 50 customers, I think. Now, ChatGPT now does have 50 coming back, so let's see what our results come back as. Very nice. All of our customer IDs are there. You can see they're all in order. And because it was only those 50 customers, there should be no duplicates. Great. Total purchase count from between 1 and 9. And then bookworm points from 21 right up to over 500. Very cool. All right, question 1, which was our difficulty level 2, done. All right, so that was pretty easy. Let's try something a bit harder. Let's go, how about a question level of 4, a bit harder. And we could actually say and include a case statement in the problem. Let's see what this does. All right, so question. Your bookstore wants to categorize customers based on their bookworm points. Customers fall into 3 categories: silver, gold, and platinum. If a customer has 200 or more bookworm points, they are platinum. If they're between 100 and 199 inclusive, they are gold. Any customers below are silver. Please write an SQL query to retrieve a list of customers with their ID and bookworm points and their corresponding category. All right, this one's gonna be a little bit harder. That's okay. It's going to have a case statement in it too, as we asked. So that's good. We can ask it to give us questions on particular functions we are trying to learn more about. How cool. Let's try to solve this one then again. Only 3 fields for our data extension. Let's give it a go. Jumping into our folder. Let's make ourselves a brand new data extension. Call this one our SQL ChatGPT Q2. And of course, our first field was our customer ID again. The record length of 50. Bookworm points as a number was number 2. And our third one was our category text. And of course, our length is not too long, so leave it as 50. Category and done. 1, 2, 3. Create. Let's go into our workflow, make ourselves another SQL. And make this one our SQL ChatGPT Q2. Alright, so how can we solve this one? We are going to want to pick up our customers and their bookworm points. So I think we're lucky here, because I think our bookworm points is in the same data extension as our customers. Yes, it is. So we just need the one data extension here, just the SQL customers. So pick up that one, go into our one here, and again, we can bring in the fields that we need by dragging and dropping that across. There it is. And select those fields from SQL. Now, our category is our case statement, so we can say case when. Now, what were the rules for our case? It said if it was a customer has 200 or more. Okay, so for 200 or more, we can say where the bookworm points. So when bookworm points is 200 or more, so greater than or equal to 200, then their status was going to be platinum. All right, so then platinum. When, and in fact we can be a bit lazy here and copy that one straight down, if their bookworm points was, and the next one down, was between 100 and 199 inclusive, so that's 100 or above, then they're gold. But if they're not above 200, then they can be above or equal to 100 as gold. And then otherwise, I think their final one was going to be silver for anything else. So we can quite simply say else silver. End as category from our customers. All right, let's give it a whirl. Looking good. Go next, choosing our data extension once more. ChatGPT, question 2, 3 fields, and next, and finish. All right, let's save that query and see how we go. And as we run this one, we'll once again check out what ChatGPT thinks a good answer would be for Salesforce Marketing Cloud. So get something started, run and run. Jumping back into ChatGPT, and what is the answer? Okay, to categorize, we did exactly that. Bookworm points. Oh, it chose between. Okay, curious. Not really required, although it did, of course, say that it was between inclusive, so definitely a valid way of doing it. But because the case statement is a waterfall statement, we can be lazy, and we can use what I did and use the greater than 100 waterfall effect. So, platinum, gold, silver from SQL customers. All right, well, let's see if we get the similar results though. Also finished, so we can jump back into our ChatGPT Q2. And we should have all 50 rows for our customers. We do. Let's see if it worked. So anything that is below 100 is silver. Yes, below 100 is all silver. Below 200 is all gold. Yep, and then platinum for everything else. All right, success. Question 2 complete. Okay, let's go back for one more question. And this time I think playtime's over. Let's go question level 9. All right, let's do a harder one. Your bookstore is running a special promotion. You need to identify customers who have made a purchase in the last 30 days but have not attended any events. Additionally, you want to find out any of these customers have purchased books authors by the same author more than once. Oh, wow. Please provide an SQL query to achieve this complex task. Yep, that's a complex one. All right. So the example output is we want the customer ID, their last purchase date, the author ID, and the author name. Okay, so let's go again. We want to identify customers who have made a purchase in the last 30 days. Okay, but have not attended any events. Okay. Additionally, you want to find out any of these customers that have purchased, if these have purchased books authored by the same author more than once. All right, so if they've purchased books from the same author more than once. Wow. All right, well, let's start by compartmentalizing this one into a few pieces. The first one is made a purchase in the last 30 days. Second one is not attended any events. And third one is the duplicate by author purchase. That's a really small data extension, thankfully, to output this data to. So let's start by making that data extension ourselves, starting with customer ID. Jumping into our folder and make ourselves our brand new question 3. I had to choose level 9, didn't I? All right, SQL ChatGPT Q3. All right, so customer ID, the primary key for this one, and we want the last purchase date as date time. Thank you, ChatGPT. As our, oops, where is it? Date time. We're going to want our author ID numeric, right, number. We're also going to want the author's name. All right, as text, make that one a bit longer just in case. All right, so here's our full fields. Let's go and make our SQL. We'll drag and drop in and new and SQL ChatGPT number 3. All right. There it is. So let's start by making a solution to that first part of the question. We are selecting customer ID, last purchase, author, and name. All right, so from where to start with? Obviously our customer list to start with. So SQL customers, let's get our customers in. So from customers on C, our customer ID of course will be C. Next one is going to be a left join last purchase date. Well, that one should be easy. It's going to bring in our invoices. So we'll bring in invoice. Now I don't want all the data on invoices. I'm just going to want the invoice date max. So I can probably be cheeky here. Run a nested query. I can probably say select from the invoices. I just want the, if I need, well, I'm going to need the customer ID to start with. I'm also going to want the, oops, last purchase date. So the invoice date, which is the date time value, there it is. I'm just going to want the max of that. So max of last purchase date. There we are, as purchase date. From invoices I on I dot customer ID is equal to C dot customer ID. Alright, that's our first part. Now, hopefully, and of course a group by, so I do need that group by here. Group by customer ID, thank you. Now author ID I'll leave as 0 now, and author name I'll leave also as blank for now. Last purchase is I dot validate. Alright, so that's gonna get us part of the way there. Our next part was for those who have not attended any events. So we can get our event reminder. Now again, we didn't tell it that this structure had events. It picked up the field names here. And it's figured out these mean events. So that's very cool at ChatGPT. But now, of course, we want those who don't exist in this. They haven't attended. Now, this is the fun thing. It's actually using the attending field, I think. So I'll have to join in the event reminder, which we'll do here. And so we'll do a left join on the event reminder as E on E dot. And you know, we can be tricky here as well, actually. Let's make another nested query, I think. And go select some data from the event reminder. What do we need, of course? We are going to be joining on customer ID as first. And what else do we want? Actually, you know what? Nothing else that we need, because we're going to use the attending boolean here. Yes, that's what we can do. We can say from there, where attending equals 0, then not attending. Actually, even better, not equals 1, just in case it's null. Oops, that. We need customer ID because we're going to join on customer ID is equal to c.customer ID, where e.customer ID is null, and that should remove those customers for us. Yes, okay. So we can probably get to our list of customers now that have a purchase date. I'll just check customers who have made a purchase in the last 30 days. We need our 30 days criteria met first. So let's go back into our invoices here, the max purchase date. So I've already got that. And where the last purchase date, which is I, where I dot last purchase date is greater than, let's say date add, I think. We'll do date add in days, oops, day, -30, and from get date. Alright, so that should give us last purchase is greater than today minus 30. So it's in last 30 days, where the customer ID is not in this list. Good. So that should solve the first part of our question. Let's go now and run it. I just want to see how we're going so far. So question 3, overwrite, yes, finish. Let's see how many customers fall into this very first step. So we'll go question 3, and we'll run once. Alright, so while that's running, let's go back here. So we have 30 days not attended events. Additionally, you want to find out how many of these customers have purchased books authored by the same. Right, so with our first section solved, I think we can make this whole section now into a nested query to then bring this other section in secondly. So we'll try that out. Let's run, and we hope on some results for our first view. And Q3, 0. Okay. Now of course, the data in this is a little bit skewed, so we can't take it as verbatim. We will have to change our code a little bit because the data is extracted and static, with the last purchase date being the 6th of August. So we can't use get date, that's too far in the future. If you're looking at this video in the future, we should use a static date, and for this data, again, it was the 6th of August 2023. So we can use 2023 0806 to get the 6th of August. So in the last 30 days from the date that data was extracted. We use that instead, and that way we should get a capturing of all that data. Rookie mistake, but just be aware that because the data that we are using, the sample data from our GitHub saved set here, was from August. So we have to make sure that we are always considering that. When it says things like last 30 days, we have to use that static data. Alright, so let's just run once more, I hope. I hope. So we can go back in and have a look. Not just yet. We'll make sure it's run. Okay, now it's running. My mistake. There we are. This one shouldn't take too long. We've been averaging only about 13 seconds. Done. Lovely. So how many customers actually was it? There's 20. Okay. We can work with 20. So here's our customers. So last purchase date, of course, within 30 days of the 6th of August, and that does look like they're all more recent. Purchase date, yep, that's about 30 days worth. Okay, now we need to get this author ID and author name, those who have purchased from more than 2 authors. Now, curiously, it didn't ask us to just filter those in, it just wanted us to give the author name and the author ID. Now we have got no duplicates here, so I'm going to assume it would actually like us to produce the authors they purchased to from. But because we know our data better than ChatGPT, we do know that it is possible for one customer to have purchased from more than one author more than once. For example, our customer ID ABC123 here could have purchased 2 books from John Smith and 2 books from Jane Doe. That is possible. So we have to be careful here. I think this sample output is going to be slightly difficult to accomplish. I think rather than bringing in these 2 fields, what we should be doing is just filtering out customers who have not purchased from more than one author. So there is a risk. They could have purchased from more than one author more than once. Now, what we can do, though, to try and achieve this is not make that a primary key, I think. It will cause us some duplicates, but it will show us the author names. We can try that. What we'll do is we'll actually duplicate our current DAO extension and not make it a primary key. So let's go brand new from existing and choose our learning Q3, Q3B, not primary key. All right, there we go. Now we can go back in and solve our question, and we will try and solve it then, the way it's doing it here in ChatGPT. We may just get some duplicates in the customer ID field, but that's okay. So author ID and author names what we need next. So how do we get to those? Well, from our customers, of course, they've got invoices to details, to books, to authors. Wow, okay. That's gonna be a big join. That's a big join. All right, let's have a look. So back in our SQL, let's open up our query. And what we'll do is we'll try and join this in from down below. So let's make some space and we'll try and do this in ourselves. So what we need is to finalize with the author ID and author name. That's all we need at the end is those 2 fields. So I'll just put those 2 fields there as a reminder. All right, that's going to be where from. So we can say from where. Well, to get author name and author ID, of course, we're going to need the SQL authors, so author ID. And of course, there is the first name there as well. So let's go from SQL authors to start with. Of course, to get author ID, we'll do author ID, which is author ID, good. But author name, I think was first name. Now just check. Oh, they want first name and last name. Oh, of course they do. Okay. So we'll do first name and surname. So to do this, we'll go first name, oops, and author name. No, we want surname of the author as author name. So that should get us selecting those 2 values from authors. Good, author ID and author name. Then what do we need? Well, we need to left join in our next piece, which is going to be our book authors, where did our books join? So we want book authors. Oops. We want the left join to book authors. Now author we'll call A, and BA for book authors on book authors dot author ID is equal to authors dot author ID. All right, so we have that one. Next, we're going to want to join into our books, SQL books, which of course has SKU as our link there. Okay, so left join in our books. Call this one B on B.skew equals BA.skew. Next one is SQL invoice detail. Now we get to this one on skew as well. Okay. So because it's a many to one on there, I don't think we even need to go through books. I think we can actually get from book authors straight to invoice detail. Because skew is a join there. So I think we can bypass books and go straight to invoice detail. Bit tricky. I think we can do that. So let's just jump it and go straight to I for invoice. Do it that way. All right. So from invoice detail, we can then go to invoices on invoice ID. Yes, we can. So we'll get invoice ID to get to customer ID to get to customers. Yes. Okay. So left join our invoices. That's ID actually, invoice detail, and this can be I on I dot. And we said it was our invoice ID. It's equal to invoice detail invoice ID. Next one we have to get to is from invoices to customers on customer IDs. Now we can join back onto customers. Okay, so now we can left join our customers in C on C dot customer ID, I think it was. Yes, it is on invoices customer ID. Equals invoices customer ID. Okay, so that's our joining path that will get us from our current data all the way back into our book authors. So we have our information ready for us on one screen, we can try and match it all the way back. So we only want those who purchased from the same author twice. So we need to make sure that we can find where there is two of the same author. So how can we achieve that? You know what, I'm actually really not sure. This is a fantastic example of how we can now use ChatGPT to try and find out if there are any customers, or what function we can use to find a duplicate on those books. I think we could do it by matching back onto that author ID. If we did have it where customer and author ID were side by side, and then do a row count where there is more than one customer author ID match. We could do that. But right now, sitting here, I'm not 100% how to do that. It'll take a bit of time as well. So we can shortcut this. We've now got the question posed. Let's now try and solve it. What is the answer? I think it would do it as a customer and an author ID. That's how I would do it. Let's see what it thinks. Yep, massive inner join. From invoices detail all the way through, and we're distinct count of skew. Interesting. On multi-purchase match, we're in last 30 days on authors. Interesting. Okay, it seems to think that's the solution. You know what the best part is? We have the code, so we can try it out. So it does have first name and surname. Curious way of doing it there, but let's have a look and see what it thinks in Marketing Cloud. Let's leave this one as it is, actually. I'm going to leave this one as it is. I'm going to go back, make a brand new one, and let's see what ChatGPT's answer was. So SQL ChatGPT A3 for the answer. Let's see if this is valid. I've got a feeling it's got a few things that are a little bit wrong. So it doesn't like that. It's going to want plus signs there for concatenation. All right, bad identify author ID on B. Okay. Well, we can resolve through this, where B author ID is selecting distinct. We've got B as where? Group by B author ID. I don't think you brought in author ID yet, ChatGPT. I think you meant BA possibly. B skew. Gee, it's making a few errors, that's alright. Oops, and find B skew. Again, I don't think that B skew is the right place for it because you have not brought in the B table. Not in this inner join anyway. So where did you get B SKU from? It must have been from either invoice detail or book authors. So I'm going to assume it means BA on SKU. Invalid column name, okay. BA SKU, yes, we have that one there. BA SKU, yes. Book authors, we have SKU. Alright, where else has it got SKU then? I for invoice, I believe. Inner join. I for invoices, yes, we do. Oh, actually, no, I don't think SKU is in invoices. Invoices doesn't have SKU, it's SKU detail it has SKU. Okay, so I made a small mistake there too. We want invoice detail ID SKU. Could not be bound. That's because it's inside here. And invoice detail has not been used otherwise. Oh dear. So I think maybe it wants this multi-purchase piece that it's having, but it's not been brought through. So the only way you could do that would be to group by and include the SKU, but that defeats the purpose of that inner join. So it's not quite worked. ChatGPT has failed us. Well, that's okay, we can go back and tell it. That SQL doesn't work. Try again. Yes, I do apologize, that's alright. Okay, so let's try it again. We do have another B SKU coming in. That's alright, let's try it out. Copy our code, and let's see what it thinks this time. Now I do know that these have to be plus signs. For aggregation, there we are. And once again, invalid on SKU. It keeps making the same mistake. I think it's gotten a bit of a confusion when it comes to those field names. Again, inner joining on I, which is fine. We do have invoices, but invoices does not have the SKU. It joins on invoice ID, and it keeps making that same mistake. Oh, it's a shame, ChatGPT. So we've also got B coming in. Now, B author ID. Again, we don't actually have B mapped. Oh no, authors, there it is, there, SKU, my apologies. So I think it wants the invoice detail. It must want invoice detail, but it's not been brought in. So I think it might need to come in through our multi-author, which again defeats the purpose because we don't want to be matching on SKU, we want on author ID. So how about we give it the inner join here, on invoice detail, and see what it thinks with that. We can go join on invoice detail on ID, where ID, invoice ID is I for invoice, which we have, good. That gives us ID, which allows us to have SKU. Okay, that's worked. So once again, though, we can't do the 30-day thing, as we learned. We do have to have the actual static date to make sure it allows us to bring those records through. We do have that join on the events, I hope. So where the invoice states in the last 30 days, yes, and ER was the event reminder on customer ID, good. Where is null? Yes, we brought that one in. Although curiously, it didn't bring in the attended. So it also missed out that criteria because we said attending is false because they haven't attended. So it did miss that criteria too. Gee, a few strikes, ChatGPT. All right. But it seems to think that's going to be most of the way there. So without putting those additional criteria in, let's go next. At least see what the results could look like. All right, let's have a look then and see what ChatGPT's very own answer is for our third question. Now, while this runs, a quick challenge now to you, dear viewer. Jump in for yourself. You should have a screenshot of the question if you go back in time a few minutes and try this one out for yourself. If you have a good solution, stick it in the comments below in the video. And to the first person who posts the correct answer, you can use a GitHub gist if you like, otherwise a code pen or a code snippet will do. I'll pin the first comment that comes up with the correct answer. So hopefully that's now running. Alright, that's it done. So let's now have a look. It thinks there's 14. Okay, so it thinks 14. Now, if you think you can solve it and bring back something different, then please post your comments onto your own code. We do have one subscriber here with multiple records. Wow, okay. So it seems to think that there's one individual, and a second individual, and a third. So just 3 customers in total who've got multiple book purchases and who did not attend events. All right, so challenge to you, post the correct code and I'll pin the first response to the video. So as you can see, for some of the basic questions in SQL, particularly when you want to try and improve yourself in using 1 or 2 key functions like we did here, you can use ChatGPT using that prompt structure as shown. Tell it what it's going to do, act as a what, give it some context around what you want from it, generate some sample questions, give it some prefix as well as to what you want to try and do between 1 and 10, easy to hard. That gives you some elasticity about how hard those questions can be. And further, make sure you tell it how the output should look as well. I asked for a textual question with a textual output and to only provide the answer if I asked for it. Very important thing too when it comes to SQL, because SQL is a universal language for databases, you don't want it to write back SQL in other server languages. You want to be working in Marketing Cloud, so make sure you do specify and say that it must work in a query activity in Salesforce Marketing Cloud. With that all done, like I showed, you can post the database markup language structure directly from the documentation from the Introduction to SQL in Marketing Cloud lessons that I did. If you do have your own structures, you can paste those as well for your own training, but just a word of warning, don't copy and paste your own SQL or data extension structures from your own business unit, especially if they do contain sensitive fields or naming conventions from your company. It's a better idea to have a sample data set just like this one here. That way you're not going to be exposing any sensitive information to ChatGPT. Once that's done, you can of course ask it questions of varying levels of difficulty, but bear in mind that even ChatGPT does have its limits, and after a while it's going to forget the schema that we provided above. As you saw from those later few questions, it got a bit fuzzy. So ideally, once you do have a few questions done, I recommend that you actually go back to the start, delete this chat and start again, just to make sure that ChatGPT knows that this is the most important information here, particularly this table structure. And with that, I hope you enjoyed today's video on how you can use ChatGPT to further your SQL learning in Salesforce Marketing Cloud. If you did, then I'd love to hear your comments in the video comments below. With a big thumbs up on the video if you did enjoy it. Don't forget, to the first person who can post a solution to question number 3, I will pin your post onto the video comments. Until then, please make sure you are subscribed to the channel so that you're notified when I release more Salesforce Marketing Cloud content.